When we first moved in, it was really nice because everything was new, you know. Everything was new, everything was clean. Well, she missed all this, you know. When we move in there, new flats. I mean, that's not here anymore now, it's all gone. It's all been pulled down.
The estate's gone through a process of being demolished and rebuilt as, instead of a 60s red brick block, into a sort of street pattern of yellow brick housing. And it all centres around what's the clock tower from the old Metropolitan Cattle Market.
Some artists are working very, very closely with residents, documenting their lives, the process of leaving the estate. Some artists are doing big, extravagant painting projects just to bring colour and life into the estate. There are projects that explore the space and really looking at the legacy of this estate and its community. I'm moving from Clock Tower Place. I was on the 3rd floor, overlooking the front of the park. And today, I'm being gently persuaded to move to Clockview Crescent with an excellent panorama view. My neighbours are here, a lot of friends are here. And the pros and cons, that was my home for 15 years, so it's quite emotional. I've got to actually watch it being knocked down.
This project is a treasure hunt of murals, which I painted here and throughout the estate. And each mural goes over the most important events in Market Estate's history. And this one I'm painting is about the block's construction in 1967. By the time I got to London, I was so inspired by, you know, this combination of traditional and modern architecture. In Spanish, we have this big culture of like builders being really sometimes rude and very rough. And every builder has got his baguette, you know, instead of a lunchbox, is a big baguette. It's going to be demolished, and I knew that from the very beginning, and sometimes, I don't know, it's good. I can just take the wall off and bring it home. That wouldn't work at all.
There was a bit of a sentimentality seeing it tore to pieces, you know, because having spent so many years there, you know, although I only moved a matter of a few feet. Well, this flat's got everything. They'd never skimp for anything, you know. They've put the best of materials in. The flat itself is beautiful. I really love it.
We started really just before Christmas, and we started sort of sourcing objects and painting those, and then we've been in here for, well, nearly a month now, sort of working on prepping all the walls back, painting. Had 4 layers of white before we could even start on the yellow, because the flats, as you can see, are in a pretty appalling state.
The idea was to recreate a 1960s front room that might have been in here when it was built. We chose fluorescent yellow because it has this kind of feeling of hope and also a feeling of something gone a bit sour, so it's like a carcinogenic colour, but also like an antiseptic colour, kind of like nuclear hope and nuclear failure.
That sense of the hope with which these blocks were built is this kind of 60s utopian vision of how whole communities were going to be transformed by this kind of architecture.
What do doors mean to you? What?
If you open a door, you can go through somewhere. It might be a magical land.
It could be magical land, yes. But sometimes maybe doors are closed on you when your parents are a bit annoyed with you, is that right? Yeah. When we're looking around the estate, we're wanting to find materials that we could use, obviously from the estate, but something that said something about the lives of people on the estate, and something that would be a way to take the interior of the flat into the exterior. So instead of doing something inside a flat, we wanted to bring it outside. We ended up crowbarring them off, which is was quite effective. And it's left some of the hinges on, which has been useful at times. It's one of these things we can't take it with us, you know, it's been fun doing it, and hopefully when people see it, they will think a bit about what the door might mean in their, you know, not so much their lives, their flats.
The lettering is all taken from various headlines and anecdotes and history of the site. This first one here is the pedestrian paradise, and back in the 60s when they rolled out this scheme, it was called a pedestrian paradise. It's now known as a failed building type. Deaths unnoticed in Big Bad Estate, and that was about an incident where there was a resident who had died and wasn't discovered for 2 weeks. So it's sort of, it's very telling as far as, I suppose, how much care is kind of given to a lot of residents who are put here. It's a process of almost scarring or tearing at the building. It's inscribed into the building, these headlines in history.
When you come in and see the flats, they were beautiful. Very high standard. But I'm afraid, like, over the years, it really ran down. This road is named after my husband, Jim, as you can see, because he was so involved with the project. It's just a nice gesture to do something like that.
Ah, that was me. One Sunday morning, sitting at the window, looking at the news of the world paper. The good old days, I call them.
So I met Jimmy Watts like 2 months ago by hazard, and Jimmy Watts is the oldest resident of the estate, so he's been living there for 43 years. And he told me a lot about like how lovely it was, this estate, and how like step by step it becomes worse and worse and worse and worse. And he let me his flat and I can do whatever I want, and he knows that I'm going to exhibit about himself, you know. Each time I'm doing an intervention in the flat, you know, I decide to paint the room in black, you know, as like a dark room, and I'm enlightening his past. So that was his living room, you know, and I just keep the frame, you know, like the trace, the print of the frames that he used to have, the photographs. So I'm going to do a projection room here, where I'm gonna give like the Super 8, like show the Super 8 movie. And at the end of the story of the Super 8 movie, he gave me his Super 8 camera and he said, okay, that's yours, you know. So yeah, that's really nice.
Originally, my plan was just to paint the kitchen and the outside, but I wanted to do the whole flat. These are pieces that I previously did on wallpaper, which I've just added to this room. I'm painting a mask on the outside, and the idea with that is really you have to wear a mask in society in order to survive. So I wanted to do that, and I also wanted to leave like a final image looking out at the estate, like it's the last thing that you see. I'm hoping it's the last thing that gets demolished. And I quite like the idea that it's going to be destroyed. It's a piece of art that's going to go.